My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, we are trying something new today. I still feel like my regular setup is kind of a drag right now. Can't bring myself to go back to it. And so I decided to try filming with natural light. I brought the camera over to the coffee table. The windows are right in front of me. I'm not using any studio lighting today, which might actually be good because you're gonna get really realistic shots up close of my skin. If you're new here, I am Hannah. I love beautiful things and I love makeup, but not at the expense of my financial health. And I love to talk about them and share my love of them, but not at the expense of yours. And if that sounds like something you would like to watch, please subscribe to my channel. This video is going to be a review of the much touted and also kind of contentious Fenty cream blushes. I have been using them since they launched. I ordered them on the day that they launched. I've been using them for a really long time. So this is not a first impression. This is a very thorough and systematic full review, tip to toe. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I also kind of like sitting on the floor. I feel like this is my natural state. I usually do sit cross-legged on my stool when I'm talking with you guys over there in the regular official studio. But this is very like, it's very that, you know, it's very that. This is a self-sponsored review, meaning I purchased these products myself with my YouTube channel budget for the purpose of review. I've made a list, as I have been doing with these self-sponsored reviews, of the questions that I had about this product before I got it in my hands. I'm gonna read off the list really quickly right now so that you guys will know what to expect from this review. And then I will go through question by question and answer all of the questions. The first question, what is the component like? You cannot tell from the pictures quite what it will be like. This product held some surprises for many people in terms of what the component ended up looking like in person. So that's question number one. Question number two, what are the colors like in person? Possibly the most pressing question for some of us. I ordered 2 blushes, by the way, if you need to know up front. Oh no, and one of them is not even here. I can't. I have Rosé Latte and Fuego Flush, so I'm going to be basing my review on these 2 colors. And I'll talk about why I chose these colors when I'm going through the questions. Question number 3, what is the surface of the product like? Like, what is its texture? This is the thing that I feel like I haven't really seen anyone talk about. I really love cream blushes. I'm a cream blush aficionado, so I feel like I'm really prepared to talk about the way that this product feels and the way that it applies as compared to other cream blushes. Is it sticky? Is it wet? Is it more dry? Is it super soft? Is it kind of hard? Like, what is its texture like? And then going on to talk about application. What is the pigment like? Is it heavily pigmented? Is it sheer? How does it apply? Does it apply heavily? Does it apply sheer? How does it apply with the fingers? How does it apply with a brush? How do the colors look when they're applied? Do they look the way they look in the pan, etc.? How do they look on me? And then my estimation of how they would look and whether or not they would work on other skin tones. Is it buildable? And then some other key questions for me as a cream blush lover. Does it dry down? And does it last throughout the day? So how does it set? What is the wear time like? What is its quality? And then some practical questions about value. So how long does it seem like it would last with consistent use? What is the estimated cost per use or the estimated value? And then is the price worth it to me? I can only answer that for myself, but I'll kind of address those practical concerns and the way that they might be applicable to you at the end of the review. Question number 1, what is the component like? It is small. It is smaller than everybody thought. Except me, sort of. I was not surprised at all. I think that it's because I was kind of a stalker of this product before it launched for a month, because it was previewed, it was teased. They had the page up on Sephora for like a month where you could go and like see all of the colors and look at the little videos that they had and look at the models wearing the product and decide which colors you thought you might want to try. And so I was like visiting that page every once in a while and trying to decide which colors I wanted to review on my channel, which ones I thought would be the best ones to review. And they also had the cream bronzer page up there, and it was very clear from all of the imagery that the cream bronzers were like a regular compact size and that the blushes were much smaller. And I feel like it makes sense with the price point within the Fenty range. So I looked at that information way before they even launched, and I was like, good work, Fenty, because this product is $20, and I feel like it's appropriate for a Fenty product of this size to be $20, and I would so much rather pay $20 for these little guys, $20 each, than $30 or $40 for like a big full-size cream blush compact that I just know I'm never going to get through. This, in terms of the size of the component, which was surrounded with a lot of drama, I have no issue. I think it's fantastic. And you can see that this is the size. Sturdy plastic, cute, nice. What are the colors like in person? Rosé Latte, it's deep, man. It's deep. It's a deep, rich color. And it is the one nude, or the one in the range they're touting as a nude. Because I am so pale, it is not a nude. It's like a rich berry, like a slightly faded and maybe slightly neutralized berry tone. It's just a lovely, rich color. And it's not that I wasn't expecting that from the pictures, because it pretty much looks the way that it does in the pictures. Fuego Flush is also similar to how it was in the pictures. I think that when you look at the pans, there aren't very many surprises. The surprises came for me when I started swatching them and seeing what the quality of the pigment on my skin looked like in person, as opposed to what the colors look like in person, just when you look at them. Fuego Flush is definitely mixed with some shimmer. Like, you can see it when you just look at the pan. It's definitely got little speckles in it. It's like a colored cream highlighter. Let me talk you through my logic in choosing these two colors for a review, because I've indicated this in another video recently, but there is another color that I really wanted. It's the really, really red one. I believe it's called Daiquiri Dip. It's like a brilliant, almost a blood red that probably leans a tiny bit pink when it's blended out, but I'm so attracted to that blood red cream blush in the circular pan, in the hexagonal compact, in the octagonal compact, that stunning Daiquiri Dip blush. If I were just me, a person not on YouTube, and I decided to buy one of these, that's the one I would buy. I would have just gone and bought Daiquiri Dip and been done with it, because I've been really, really into a super red cream cheek lately. And the reason I've been really into it is because I have one from CoverGirl, the clean fresh cream blush in Flushed. It's very, very red, and it just blends out to this fresh, popping cream cheek that I live for. I've been wearing it all the time. I really, really like it. Super surprised by it. I'm usually into brown and other kinds of neutral blushes, but that blush from CoverGirl has really got me going, and Daiquiri Dip looks like the Fenty version of that. However, the runner-up in my heart is definitely Rosé Latte. And when I was deciding for all of those weeks before it actually launched which one to review, I was like, you know, between Daiquiri Dip and Rosé Latte, I should really pick Rosé Latte because it's the most neutral one. As deep as it is on me, and it's what I'm wearing today, it's the most neutral one. So it's the one that I think I can get the most mileage out of in a review, because it's the one that the most people I feel like are going to be interested in. It's technically the easiest one to wear. And then when I decided that I could go ahead and get two, that my channel budget could afford to get two, I was like, I'll get Daiquiri Dip too. And then I looked closer and I realized that there are actually two finishes, at least two finishes. But from what they say on the website, it appears that there are two main finishes. There's just like a regular plain satin finish, or like a cream finish, and then there's a shimmer finish. And I was like, if I'm gonna be reviewing these on YouTube, I've got to do one of each. So for the plain non-shimmer finish, I chose Rosé Latte, and for the shimmer finish, I chose Fuego Flush, which I think actually turned out to be a good choice, because as I was checking back after the launch, Fuego Flush was the one that was sold out the most. It's also the one that's the most dramatically unique to my collection, because since I'm talking about color, I will go ahead and tell you that I have a perfect dupe for Rosé Latte already in my makeup collection, and it is the Lila B Be Lovely Divine Lip and Cheek, which is a much more expensive product, but they are exactly the same. I think that the Lila B is maybe a tiny bit more opaque, and it's also a softer product. The surface of it is softer, and it therefore blends out a little bit more easily. It's a bit of a richer consistency. But they are exactly the same color, exactly. So let's move on to talking about the surface of the product, the texture. This is the thing that I was maybe the most curious about as a cream blush lover. The surface of the pan is hard. It's firm. So when I tap down on it, it's so firm that not as much product transfers to my finger as it would if I tapped down like this on other cream blushes that I have. When I rub my finger into the surface of it, it picks up plenty. It warms it up and it picks up plenty, but it doesn't break the surface. It doesn't dig into it. And I think it would actually be kind of hard to do that. You know, when you get a lip balm in a tin or in like a little jar that's wide and flat, and you start putting your finger into it, with a lot of lip balms, they're so hard and they're so set that you could just keep rubbing your finger on the surface ad infinitum and not picking up very much onto your finger, and also not breaking the surface. And then once you break the surface, I'll often like dig a fingernail in or push really hard and like crack it, like almost like the surface of a creme brulee. Once you do that, the product becomes much softer because it starts sort of like gunking up in and amongst itself. And then from there on out, when you dig in, you're more likely to get more product on your finger. For a lip balm, that's ideal. For a blush, not so much. I haven't tried to break the surface of this product because if I continue to rub my finger around, or if I use the brush, it picks up plenty of product and it's very pigmented. So don't feel like it's a problem that the surface is hard. It's just that it surprised me because it makes it feel a bit thinner. The amount that transfers to your finger, it makes it feel a bit thinner. I think that this consistency is probably responsible for the multiple reviews that said that the pigment is kind of faint or blends away. Because if you're not being careful, if you're not really trying to get a lot of the blush onto your finger, onto your brush, it doesn't transfer very much to your finger because the surface is so hard and set and somewhat slick. With Fuego Flush, it's basically the same texture-wise. It's very hard. In fact, I don't even know if I could like break the surface the way that I can with a lip balm. When I start messing around with it, it definitely gets a tiny bit of buildup into the pan and onto my finger. Again, warming it up really helps. But it just feels like a harder, slicker surface of a cream blush than maybe almost any cream blush that I have. The other ones that I have are much softer. So moving on to talk about texture. Is it sticky? Is it wet? Is it more dry, super soft, pretty hard, etc.? It is not sticky and it is not wet, and it also is not foamy or soft or creamy. It's not creamy. It is like a very set wax that it's very easy to turn into a more liquidy consistency with the warmth of a finger. If I compare it to all the rest of my cream blushes, so I'm thinking of the one from Can Make, the ones from Kjaer Weis, the one from Lila B, for example, this is harder than all of them. The thing that it's the most like that I can think of in my own collection is the Rituel de Fille Inner Glow Cream Pigment. That's the only cream blush that I have that's drier in consistency than these. These become more buttery when you rub the surface of them, and that one doesn't. It stays pretty dry no matter what you do to it. I like that because I feel like I have more control over the product when it's not like super creamy and pigmented. These, they have like a buttery surface when you work it up, but the pan itself is not buttery. What is the pigment like? Is it heavily pigmented? Is it sheer, etc.? All right, this is another area in which they diverge dramatically. The pigment is pretty intense on Rosé Latte, but it can be sheared out. I actually think it's fantastic. And you'll see in the footage of me applying it and rubbing it on the back of my hand that it looks very densely pigmented on the finger, very densely pigmented in the swatch. And then when you rub it out, it almost shears, you know what I mean? It like buffs away. But there was so much initial pigment that it's very sturdy, like it really shows on the skin. At least on my skin, it really shows, especially Rosé Latte. The pigment has that slight translucent quality that makes it very easy to work with. Like it shears out, it looks very beautiful, it attaches to the skin in a way that makes it look very natural. It really looks like it's part of my skin, it blends in. And then what I really love to do with this is to go back and get a really dense amount on my brush and tap it right on the tip of the cheekbone, like see that little dark spot there? And it gives a kind of a dramatic and editorial look, but also really fresh. I really, really love that. And this one builds beautifully with that. I can build it and build it and build it. I can build it up more in one area and then buff out the edges, and nothing bad happens. It continues to melt into my skin. It continues to look like it's part of my skin. Fuego Flush, however, is very strange. It is milky in its pigment. I think that they made the base of it white based almost, like a, I mean, it's not white based, it's like yellow based, but it's like a milky yellow based orange, like a milky carrot color. They made it milky in its base, I think, so that it would hold up on all skin tones as a very, very bright color. So if they had made this color look like this in the pan, but they had made it more translucent, it would just be like a wash with no color on a deeper skin tone. And so they gave it this like white base that makes it hold its own, and a bunch of shimmer, and that also makes it hold its own because the shimmer is going to show up on the surface of the skin rather than like melting into the skin. But what that means for it is that it's just more streaky and piecey. I got the feeling when I was applying it to my cheek that I get when I'm trying to put a lip product on my lips that's lighter than my lip color, and that's kind of settling into the lines, and then you can see the actual color of my lip through it, and it just doesn't look attractive. I kind of had that same experience when I was putting it on my cheek. It was like it was sitting on the surface of my cheek, the pigment would sort of move and blend, and the shimmer would sort of move and blend. I think it was a good faith effort, but I feel like they got something a little bit wrong with the formulation of this. I understand why they tried to do it the way that they did, but to me it compromised the formula. I think that this rosé latte is an example of this formula at its best. Like they tried to do this with this and they succeeded, and then whatever they mixed in to make Fuego Flush what it is, whether it was the shimmer or the sort of more opaque pigment, whatever they mixed in to give it that milky opacity, compromised the formula, made it streaky, made it very difficult to blend. I suspect that they mixed in different amounts of those different mix-ins for different colors, and I think that that's probably why there has been such a diversity of reactions to these blushes, because my guess is that the ones that have gotten the Fuego Flush treatment are much more difficult to work with, patchy, they're more prone to blending away because that stuff, that glittery stuff, and also the opacity in the pigment picks back up into the brush. It sort of becomes, you'll see in the demo, you'll see that the cheek with the Fuego Flush on it, I built it up and built it up more even than Rosé Latte. And at the end, it was more gone. It had disappeared more than the other cheek. But I do think that the original formula that I would guess, started with, which is what this one is, I think it's fantastic. So how does it apply? Heavy, sheer, etc. I kind of just went over that. Fuego Flush is hopeless with fingers because it's prone to streakiness. You'll have seen that it was streaky even in just the swatch on the back of my hand. It's very difficult to get a good blend with this, and I find that my best chance is to take a brush and just put a really diffused wash, almost like I'm just using it like a cream highlighter. How do the colors look when they are applied? This will more be like a showing instead of telling thing, but they look absolutely beautiful. Or rather, Rosé Latte on me, I think looks absolutely beautiful. It's a very beautiful, striking, like really, really, if you got really cold from walking through the moors, I might. If I got really cold from walking through the moors, I might look something like this. Like it's kind of an intense version of a natural flush on me, and I really, really like the way that it looks. It also kind of ends up with a slight sheen, I feel, just because of the finish, the pigment. I wanted to love Fuego Flush. It's so unusual. It's really, really different from anything else that I have, and historically I've gotten along pretty well with orange blushes, but I think what I've been getting along with is like orange peachy blushes, sort of orange brownie blushes. This is like carrot juice. It's like really like a smeared carrot on the face with some shimmer, and I just think it looks a bit sickly on me. I can imagine this looking stunning on a variety of skin tones, and even on someone with my skin tone, but with maybe different features or different coloring elsewhere on her body. I think this is really intriguing and special blush. But when I look at it close up on my own face, it's partly because the pigment is sitting on top of the skin because of the formula. It just looks a little bit carroty and sickly on me. So I ended up really loving one of these and not really loving the other in terms of how the color looks on the face. How would they look on other skin tones? So I feel like Rosé Latte, part of what makes it so successful, the formula on my skin, is that it's got that sort of jelly-like translucency. And again, I don't want to mislead you by making you think that the product is jelly-like in its consistency, because it's not. I'm using jelly-like to describe its opacity. It's got this formula that blends very easily to something somewhat sheer, but then can be built up. And I think that translucency might make it difficult to get a bold blush look from Rosé Latte if you have darker skin, especially if you have much darker skin than I do. Fuego Flush, on the other hand, because it has that milky base and those shimmer particles in it, I think even though it's a much lighter color and it shows up much lighter on me, I actually think it might show up better on a deeper skin tone, because there will be something to be gained from the way in which it sits on the surface and kind of holds its own in terms of that color base on the surface of the skin. And for that reason, I would not say that like Fuego Flush is a bad blush and Rosé Latte is a good one. I actually don't think that that's the case. I think that, as with everything from Fenty, these blushes were formulated with the widest of skin tone ranges in mind. And it may be that this is one of the ones that just doesn't suit me as well, but that it might work way, way better for someone else. Likewise, the reasons that I love Rosé Latte make me worry about how it would perform on someone with especially a much deeper skin tone. I am afraid that it would maybe just buff away, and that even placing a more dense amount of it in a single spot the way that I've done wouldn't really help. I think that at the very most, this would be exceedingly natural. Like at the best, it would be very beautiful and exceedingly natural on someone with a very deep skin tone. And I think that this would look very, very different. I think it would be like a highlighter, like a really, really great colorful highlighter. Is it buildable? Rosé Latte I have found to be buildable. Fuego Flush I have not found to be buildable. I find that it gets streaky when I try to build it. Does it dry down? Yeah. And does it last through the day? Yeah, they do. They're cosmetically elegant. They're great. They set, they stay, they're there at the end of the day the way that they were at the beginning of the day. Fantastic in terms of those questions about the formula. So there we have it in terms of formula. And from what I've said so far, I think you'll probably gather that I love Rosé Latte, and Fuego Flush I might not even keep. I might pass it along to someone who's more adventurous in the blush department than I am, or someone who has a different skin tone for whom it might work better. I really did struggle with the formula of this. It's something about the way that the shimmer particles and the base play on the skin. But then again, I really love to apply cream blush in a very heavy application with a brush. And it might be that if you want to apply just a tiny bit of cream blush and blend it all out and just have a very faint wash, and that you like to do that with your fingers, it might be that this would be totally different for you. All right, let's move on to the last couple questions talking about value, and then we can wrap it up. So how long does it seem like this blush would last with consistent use? It seems like it would last forever, like a really long time. And that's because the pan is so dense and hard, and it feels like there's a lot of pigment in a little amount when you pick it up. So it feels like this really hard surface with like a slight layer of the buttery amount that I've made emollient with my finger on top of it. And it just feels like it would last and last and last, just making the top layer emollient over and over again and picking it up and putting it on my cheeks over and over again. Even building it up like this, it just feels like I've barely used it. You know what I mean? I think that my best shot at fully panning a blush like this would be if it was my only blush. And I think I don't have very precise numbers, no math to do with this. I can't do any math about it yet because I haven't used one up yet. But I would guess that it would last months and months. If it was my only blush and I was wearing it every day, I think that it would last a respectably long time, and definitely to me in my life a $20 worth time, a length of time that's worth $20. So I actually think that in spite of their small size and in spite of all of the complaints being leveled against this release about value for money, I actually think in terms of cost per use, they probably are quite good value for money. So to me, the price is worth it. I wouldn't buy Fuego Flush again. I mean, obviously because it just hasn't worked out that well for me, but I feel like this one is well worth the price. I'm kind of considering buying Daiquiri Dip at some point in the future. I'm giving it time because that's what I tend to do. I don't want to just like run out and buy a third Fenty blush, even though these ones were technically bought by my channel. I'm gonna stick with this one, see how my feelings maybe change over time. Sadie hasn't been on YouTube for a while. She's been taking a break. But she's still as cute as she ever was. All right, that is it, you guys. That is my review of the Fenty Cream blushes. This is the last self-sponsored review that I have planned for a while. And I think that I'm gonna wait until the end of June before I start thinking about other ones. But if releases come out and you would love to see me review them, let me know, and feel free to tag me on Instagram and all of that stuff. I always like to know what it is that you would like to see reviewed. Even if I don't end up doing it now, it's always good information for the future. I think that that's everything. And now I'm covered with cat hair, so I'm going to go. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.